ಸಾಲ ಕಪ್ ನಮ್ದೆ.
Cheers and thank you.
Thank you, Kadambari Misra, right? That's your name, Kadambari, for taking the time out and doing this. And also you are officially the first woman to be on this podcast, so thank you.
Thank you.
I think also what makes this very interesting for me is that you are officially the first stranger that I'll be speaking to. Because everybody else has been on the show before. Okay. I've known them or I've been acquainted to them one way or another. So they weren't really, I knew something about them.
They weren't complete strangers.
They weren't complete strangers. If there was always somewhat a comfort level that's already
so the first woman, the first stranger,
absolutely.
That's a lot of firsts.
Yeah. And hopefully the first podcast that's seen by more than 15-20 people. That'll be a good.
I will try not to let you down.
So that and I thought, like we were discussing outside earlier, right? One of the reasons I started this podcast is because this city has many interesting people, and sometimes, actually many times, I end up having these interesting conversations with some of these people. And I say, you know what, I wish someone could listen to these kind of conversations, because the people from all walks of life, sometimes very unassuming, you don't realize till you engage with them and have a real deeper conversation,
right?
How interesting they are. And the insights that they have. And sometimes these insights, if you really engage in a open-minded conversation, they make you realize that your own perspective perhaps might do with some tweaking, There's some understanding there, there's some learning there, for me at least. And that's one of the reasons I started this.
Sure.
The other reason was...
And there's inspiration there somewhere, no? Probably.
Yeah. It does. It is inspiring to know other people's journeys, because so much of the time we are so self-involved. We only think of our own journeys.
No, I completely hear you. So, I mean, personally, I'm a big collector of stories of people and their lives, and so I hear you completely.
Yeah, and the second reason was because I thought it would also help me develop my conversational skills, because
Okay.
Because there is some pressure, right? You're being recorded,
right?
But it also, like you, I don't know you. I mean, I'm hopefully maybe at the end of this conversation, I know a little bit about you.
I won't be a complete stranger.
You won't be a complete stranger. But this conversation would not have happened if not for this, right? And so, like you, I hope to connect with many people and get to know them, and learn to speak to people, learn to actually have a meaningful conversation with people from all walks of life, because
sure.
I think it's an interesting and useful trait to have. So those are my two motives for doing this.
So what about the Bangalore story? Because it's called Bangalored, and there is...
It's called Bangalored because I'm based here. So the series is essentially conversations I'm having with people who are from Bangalore. Every city has its own unique vibe. But what is Bangalore's vibe,
exactly.
right? What do the people of Bangalore think?
Yeah.
What is your perspective on things? And how do you feel about this city? And what brings you to this city? And what keeps you here? I think these were interesting things for me.
Sure.
And I'm sure it is for anyone who wants to listen to this, How long have you been in Bangalore?
So I've been here about 8 years now. And the reason that we moved is because we were in Delhi before,
okay.
my husband and I, and when we had a kid, I think one of the first thoughts was that we don't want the kid to grow up in Delhi. so we did something to move to Bangalore, and since then it's been here. It just makes a lot of sense to live here, to raise a kid here,
right.
and to just sort of generally continue in this city.
I know it's a cliche that almost all stand-up comedians use in their material. What was your issue with Delhi? Was Delhi your origin city, or
no, it's not. It's not. So I used to live in Delhi just to work there. I'm not from Delhi at all. What was my issue?
No, because I asked this to almost everyone who's been in Delhi and run away.
Yeah.
And I just find it interesting, because, of course, almost everyone has very similar reasons, but not always the same reasons,
So let me start by saying that now that I'm out of Delhi, I do kind of miss it. I miss some of the I miss some of the monuments. I miss some of the markets. I miss the vibe in winter in certain places.
Oh, yeah. You can wear jackets and you can,
wear
really,
many layers.
many layers and all of that.
So there's that. I have very, very good friends in Delhi as well. Maybe what I don't miss about it so much is that sometimes just sort of to walk down the street could be stressful. I think I don't have that in Bangalore. So, it's...
So safety, and I think one thing I keep hearing from people who have been there, and friends of mine also who work there, and because especially in advertising and in corporate, I think the salaries are very good in Delhi. Not only Gurgaon, even Delhi. The salaries are comparatively better than Bombay, and people do go there.
Okay,
It is because
I thought Bombay had to be better because of the rents.
Bombay also at the top levels, the salaries are very good because all the MNCs headquartered there. But I think in order to incentivize the move to Delhi, and because some of the biggest brands in India are based out of Delhi, salaries are usually at least 10-20% more. And compared to the rent in Delhi, that suddenly becomes a 40% saving for a guy from Mumbai. Because if he's paying 75k for a 2 BHK...
If you're going from Mumbai, every city is going to feel cheap. Every home is going to feel large.
Absolutely. But Delhi will pay you 20% more and give you a house 50% larger.
I didn't know that.
20% cheaper.
I thought that was Bangalore.
It is. Bangalore, perhaps in IT, the salary might go up. I'm sure it does go up. But in other areas like marketing or advertising, FMCG, Bombay is a much bigger market. People come here more for the culture and for the weather, not necessarily they come here more
for raising children.
And that's what I'm saying, the quality of life.
Not in Delhi.
Absolutely, the quality of life. Even for me, Bangalore was supposed to be a stepping stone to move to Bombay.
You have to leave Chennai. So then that's when you move to Bangalore.
Bangalore, because Bombay was really expensive, and Chennai, like Bangalore, used to a certain standard of life, certain quality of life.
As you said, a stepping stone.
So Chennai, Bangalore are comparable, as in the house size of your house and the rent and all of that. It's okay. Bombay is a very different ball game, right? I said I'll come to Bangalore, stabilize, get used to not being in Chennai, and then I'll move to Bombay.
Sure. And then you just stayed.
Bangalore is like Hotel California.
And it's been what,
it's 15 years. Yeah. And my line of work, technically, a lot more money in Bombay, like advertising, whether agency or as an ad filmmaker, the money is in Bombay. And so I just never left. I never left. And now, what's really scary is as long as I'm in India, I don't know if I can live elsewhere.
I have that feeling as well. Maybe Pune, but I grew up there, so it would make sense for me, maybe for that reason. But if not Bangalore, I don't know where else.
And that's
maybe Goa.
Correct? Different vibe altogether. But it's an alternative. So Delhi, people have the same problem, which is I think aggression and safety, right? That's the two biggest things.
I think that's a big one. And then there's a few others. Like I just think it's maybe not the most easygoing city to be in.
One of my friends we were having this chat about, North Indians very aggressive, Delhi aggressive, and he said, well, that's true. Like, do you understand that's possibly because of historical reasons? I said, what? All the invaders that came to India, right? It was the people up north, right? They were the ones who had to sort of deal with it, right? And in a way...
but that in a sense is also what makes Delhi's vibe so kind of layered and so interesting in many ways as well.
Historically, so much has happened, right?
Well, historically, yes. And then there's also partition most recently. Correct, I don't know, there's something about the people. Some people.
I think it is. No, I think overall... a place changes you. It's very difficult for you to change a place as big as a city. A lot of my friends ask me, Bangalore mein kya kar raha hai? Bombay mein aana. And Bombay's got everything. And if you want to make money, there's no better city in India than Mumbai, no matter what you do.
Right. But Bombay is also a lot of hustle, right? It's just hustle all the time.
Exactly. You got to hustle. You got to wake up
that has to work for you.
And think money. Paisa. Kya karne ka? Kya paisa? Bhagne. You run. You keep running. You keep running. You stop, you die. Someone has to push you, walk over you, spit on you. Wipe their shoes on you and keep walking. That's what Mumbai is, right? in Bangalore, on any given Monday morning, right, there is a good chance I'll be in that coffee shop 2 streets away from my house, sitting and thinking of what I'm going to do this week.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
true, Sendil.
You know?
But I think that is, in fact, maybe one of the slightly more frustrating things about Bangalore. Though it's in every other way, it's a great city to live in. But I think sometimes things are a little too slow. Like
They are.
it's 9:45 and I can't call you. Like at 10 I can call you.
That's
Maybe
changed a bit.
10:30 you'll
That's
start
changed a
work.
bit.
Like
That changed a bit.
But even now, so for instance, I have a gifting company, and
Right.
in my gifting company, we deal with many different vendors. And so if I'm calling, say, a printer or a box guy or whatever, right, it becomes so difficult. And if it's
Yeah.
even like half a holiday somewhere in the world, then this guy will not work that day. And
Yeah.
so
I think
we have to deal with that.
yes. I think logistics, and since your line of work, we'll get into that, involves logistics. Yeah, logistics happen much slower. All
Yeah.
work, all logistics work,
Yeah.
moving work, construction work
Yeah.
happens at a slightly slower pace.
Right.
But I think that's a give and take.
Yeah,
I
true.
think it also allows us
To slow down in
to
the
slow
meantime.
down, So tell me more about yourself. I didn't do any. I didn't look you up on social media. That's the temptation, right? To look up the person and all of that. I said, no, I'll be. Yeah, so I thought I'll just go out on a limb and, know nothing about you so that I can actually, me and whoever is watching, 15, 20, 30 people, will actually have an honest, a discovery of who you are as a Bangalorean and as a person.
Yeah.
So please tell us about yourself.
So yeah, I'm a designer by training and by profession, and I spent the first 8 or 9 years of my working life. Is that where you want me to start?
Anywhere, it does nothing. Whatever you want to say.
In Delhi, like we were just discussing, and
But you're not from Delhi.
I'm not from Delhi.
Okay.
No. So my father is from Odisha, and my mother is from Gujarat, but
Okay.
Kutch specifically. So
Okay.
that I'm a mix, and I speak Odia and Gujarati.
Okay.
And I used to speak Marathi because we grew up in Pune.
Oh, okay.
And then Hindi and English because it happened by the
Of
way.
course. Yeah, education.
And then I learned Spanish in Mexico.
What are you saying? Wow. You were in
so
Mexico for a while.
I was in Mexico for a year right after
Wow.
college. So, and then I also learned Farsi. So I can still read and write it, and I know a lot of Farsi words. It in fact improved my Hindi a lot because there is so much Farsi that has come into Hindi through Urdu.
Okay. And Farsi is Iranian. What is it?
Yeah, exactly. It's Persian.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the modern Persian is called Farsi. So there was Old Persian, Middle Persian, and then there's modern Persian.
And
Today
how
it's
did
called
how did Farsi and you, what's the connection?
Farsi. Okay. I like how this is becoming non-linear, so thank you for breaking that up. So I went to Iran when I was about 19 or 20 years old as part of my father's crew. So my father was a documentary filmmaker and he
What
was a
are you
historian.
saying? Wow.
So he went to Iran to shoot certain bits of a film.
Okay.
And I went along as his assistant. And then I realized while I was in Iran that it was the sweetest language that I'd ever heard then and even now. I think nothing compares, you know.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and there's something about the people, and there's something about the vibe of the place as well. Although of course it is an Islamic state. There is religious police in every corner. There's complete segregation even in a bus between men and women.
And do all women have to wear the burqa? Or is
So it's a hijab.
hijab, sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, we all had to. Everyone has to wear a hijab. But I think that when the current government becomes a little more liberal, then the scarf sort of moves back a bit.
Okay, you can.
And then there's like a little more hair
But
coming out.
the veil is not compulsory. The
No.
face veil.
No,
Okay.
no.
But the headscarf and the
headscarf, and basically you can only show your hands
Right,
and
right.
I think up to your ankles, it has to be covered, and your face can show.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's
How long
that.
were you in Iran?
I was just there for I think I was there for a month.
Okay.
But it really left a very deep impression on me, as you can
You
see.
look mildly Iranian actually. Now that you mention it, you can pass
okay.
off. I'm sure if you spoke.
No, I can't. So in Iran, I stuck out like a sore thumb, of course, because I didn't speak Farsi. But also, don't look Iranian at all.
No, mildly. If you know that there's a street in Kamnahalli. You know Kamnahalli, right?
Yeah, of course.
A lot of Iranian students stay there.
Yeah, that's right. And Arabs also, right?
Arabs, Iranians, African students.
Africans, yeah.
Also some Korean students. But Koreans usually stick to themselves.
Actually, Kamanali's become quite a melting pot, like in an interesting
so
way.
in fact, I remember speaking to the young guy. We had to go pick up something on that street, some food from one of the restaurants, and I don't know what that lane is called. I'm like, man, that place where all the restaurants.
The shawarma lane.
Correct. So they call it the Gaza Strip.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Wow, that's so cool. What do you mean? Yeah, Gaza Strip, macha.
Okay.
That is such a cool because I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense actually.
I don't know if it makes sense, but it's definitely funny. It's I hope.
I mean, I'll now associate
offended.
that name with that street, and I think it fits. Like,
yeah. Sorry. I think I diverted you. So that's how you know Farsi.
That's how I used to know Farsi. Okay. So I've forgotten a lot of my Farsi, but yeah. So I studied Farsi in Iran Culture House in Delhi. And in those days, I would take the metro, I think 20 kilometers each way, 3 times a week. And I was dead serious
Farsi in Bangalore?
I learned Farsi in Delhi.
Okay, Delhi.
Yeah, in Iran Culture House.
Okay, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's this sweet little island in the middle of Delhi where they teach serious Farsi. And they must be good at it because the gardener speaks Farsi, the chaiwala speaks Farsi.
And they're all Indians?
They're all Indians.
Oh, wow.
They're all Indians.
That's very interesting.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
So there's an Iranian culture center in Delhi that teaches...
Yeah, and they say that outside of Iran, it's the best place in the world to study
learn
Farsi. To
wow.
learn Farsi.
No,
at least this
surprised.
used to be so. I don't know if it still is.
Well, Delhi, for one thing, Delhi is a place with some fantastic educational institutions.
And cultural stuff happening.
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Time.
Culturally...
you miss that when you move out of Delhi.
Correct. I think in that respect, Bangalore... I don't think it's a match for a place like Delhi.
No,
culturally.
It's not
culturally.
at all.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Even compared to a Chennai, I'm saying because
Chennai
it's an old
very
city.
Culturally rich, but Chennai's got its own kind of culture.
Yeah,
right? And I think Chennai, I could be wrong, but as a city, takes a little bit of time to embrace other cultures. Maybe because the plunder hasn't happened from, like the Turks and the Afghans and the Mughals, but...
I'll tell you my interpretation of that.
Think.
No,
like
you're right.
It's a little conservative.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's what I'm saying. Chennai and Tamil Nadu in general is very culturally self-sufficient. It's not that they are against outside culture. They're just like, I'm happy with my culture. You know what I'm saying? And you're welcome to come and partake of it.
So I was just saying that the flip side of that is that you don't end up learning Kannada. So
very true.
8 years I don't speak it. Like almost not at all.
15 years. It's only the last 2.5, 3 years that I've started voluntarily forcing myself to learn Kannada, and I do that. You know how? Now I've gotten much better by speaking to the Swiggy guy, the Zomato guy, the cabbie. Initially, they'd be like, what the heck is this guy saying? Because I'll be saying some random shit that makes no sense. Okay, it just sounds like Kannada, but probably isn't.
So what would you say? I know 4 sentences.
I don't remember, but he's basically talking about where are you? Please come here. Ellidira.
Yeah.
I'll banbade. But what happens? Only good thing one of the things I'm not.
But you speak it fluently now.
Yeah, I'm not a linguist, but every language that I know, the 4, 5, 10 things that I may know, I perfect the accent.
You can do the accent. So you're very convincing then.
Yeah.
But then what if he responds in like major Kannada? Then what do you do? Because that's where I get stuck.
That's when I get stuck today.
That's when I'm like, bhaiya. Then suddenly.
So 3 years down the line, now I understand Kannada very well. The last 3 years where I've been making the effort to learn the language, now I comprehend most of what people are saying, even if they speak it a little fast and all of that.
Yeah.
So then when you're speaking in full flow Kannada, I just like, yes, of course. I just throw English words. Yes. Correct. Ha.
True.
Some of the cabbies were Tamilians. After about a couple of them, they'll say, hello boss, Tamil. I'll say, yeah. Let's talk in Tamil.
But they can tell that you're a Tamilian?
I suppose. Just the features that, the way
or maybe your name.
And of course, my name, 99% you have to be a Tamilian.
Yeah, I don't know any Sendils who are non-Tamilians.
Yeah, Sendil is one of those names. I think in Tamil Nadu, every fourth, just default.
So it's the Manjunath of Tamil Nadu, basically.
Don't do that. As it is, I find my name totally unglamorous. I never thought of it that way. And now I cannot help.
It's the Satish.
You're not making it any better. Okay, just let's forget the name. Let's move on. Moving on. Yes.
It took me many years to get over my name also.
Yeah, but actually your name Kadambari, it sounds more South Indian than North Indian. Or is it a North Indian name?
I think it's just Sanskrit, but I think a lot of people ask me if I'm Kannadiga because
Yeah, it's a very Kannadiga, South Indian, especially Kannadiga name, Kadambari. Kadambari, Elidya, I know it flows.
yeah.
It flows with the Kannada tongue, you know. So yeah, but you're obviously you're not. You're not.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So yeah, the flip side is you're not incentivized to learn the local language.
Yeah, you're not. I think it's a pity, you know. Like, so my kid is growing up in Bangalore and he doesn't speak any Kannada, you know. So I think in his Kannada class, he pretty much submits nothing, you know. Like, I think his papers are blank. Or we kind of Google it and we show it to him and say, write this.
Right.
Because we don't know how to help him any better than that. It's really sad. I mean, I have started understanding quite a bit, and then I can read and write it. So I can read anything you ask me to, but I won't understand what I'm saying or what I'm reading.
Right.
It's a beautiful script also. It's a really beautiful script.
To me, it resembles Telugu in the way they write it,
but it's a little nicer than Telugu. I mean, I find, just from a script point of view, because I think that the roundedness of the letters is kind of very nicely done and very beautifully kind of evolved nicely.
I cannot
Telugu
distinguish.
is a mix, you know. There are some angles and then there are lots of round
You're a designer,
forms.
so you'd probably know these.
I mean, I'm just looking at it as forms.
Right.
And I think that Kannada that way is very beautifully resolved, you know. It kind of looks really beautiful.
Why were you in Mexico?
So I had some friends in Mexico. So right after college, I took a year off and I went to Mexico and I worked as an illustrator, and I also worked as a waitress in a very nice Uruguayan restaurant. And that was right next to Frida Kahlo's house, which is a museum. So I would walk around in that area.
This is Mexico City proper.
This is Mexico City. It's a very nice part of Mexico City. There's beautiful cobble streets, there's bougainvilleas, there's cacti, huge cacti outside the houses. It's Mexico City is beautiful.
But sorry, you finished college and you went there as part of an exchange, or you just got a job?
No, I just got a job and I went and I worked as an illustrator, and I also waited tables because I needed to.
Yeah, wow. But Mexico, wasn't it scary? No, at least all the movies make me like. When I think
it's sort of like what we are. It's got a lot of class divisions and differences, right? There's a lot of disparity, and I think that a Caucasian person, like a white person, is a lot more unsafe in Mexico City than just a brown person. So I would go to the grittiest parts of Mexico City and walk around, take pictures, buy things, eat, do whatever I wanted. And
you did not attract unwarranted attention?
Not at all, because it's a brown person. Like, I'm not going to mug her. I have other people
Indian,
to mug, you know.
So I think we have to thank the Indian rupee for that, right? They know it doesn't...
So I think that in those days, right, this was a while ago, they hadn't really seen Indians. I think I was there in 2004 or 5, something like that. But they hadn't really seen a lot of Indians back then. So they couldn't tell that I was Indian. They could just tell that I wasn't Mexican. And then the guesses would start. It was amazing.
You mentioned that your dad is a documentary filmmaker.
He was also a historian.
Okay, wow.
So he's very academic and he was reading all kinds of books. And in fact, recently I was in Bhubaneswar at my mom's place and my grandparents' place, and I was helping my mom to kind of unpack my dad's books, which she has held on to for all these years. And I was looking at those book covers and I have no idea what that book could possibly be about, you know. So it's about some Greek history, like Roman person,
hardcore
historians,
academic.
Hardcore academic. So there was that, you know, and I think, so my sister and I were just the most unacademic, non-intellectual 2 children that he could have had.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so we grew up, you know, so he would take us to a bookshop, and at a bookshop was the one place where he would say, you know what, buy whatever you want. Because in other places, he didn't have the means, you know. And at that bookshop where he felt it was like such a great opportunity for us, I think we would buy Archie comics, you know, Betty and Veronica double digest. Not even Nancy Drew, okay? Jughead. And we would be like, yeah, we're good, thanks. So yeah, there was a big contrast.
So he must have felt like Amir Khan in Dangal, no? Who has wanted sons so that he could have win a medal.
But he was an easygoing Amir Khan. Like, you're not going to chop our hair and say, like, you have to do this. Like, that didn't happen.
Jo mila so mila.
Yeah, he's like, resigned. You want Archie comics? Yeah, I'm going to get Archie comics.
Yeah, so that must have been an interesting childhood, right? Growing up with a dad who's a historian and a documentary filmmaker. Wow, because I think documentary filmmaking is, I think in it's the most raw form of filmmaking, because you're actually capturing, at least to an extent, the truth as it is, because what I do, advertising and filmmaking,
is the other
opposite.
end.
It's
the other
exact
opposite.
other end, right? And I think, of course, it's a lot more financially rewarding.
I don't know, Sendil, but I think something went in somewhere because this project that I'm working on now, the Iconic Women project, when I think back to where it started from, I don't think it started from the first woman that I impersonated or reenacted. I think it started from way back in my childhood when there were these conversations at home all the time about different people, different eras in history, and what that means to us today. What does it mean to our cities? What does it mean to be Indian or Persian or whatever it is? I think all of that went in somewhere.
I wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Naveen, who's our common friend who's connected us, he mentioned this.
Okay.
And I thought I'd ask you about it. The Iconic Women project.
Yeah.
I know that you've got a fair amount of press coverage also on this.
Just one.
This one,
Yeah.
okay. But you've got a lot of it's got some traction on social media, correct?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So tell us about this.
Okay. So I kind of think about the lives of other women, and they could be from different eras, different walks of life, different parts of the world. They could be from the ancient world, or that's not a filter, that's not a barrier. But I think of it as, and because I'm a visual person, right, as opposed to an academic, I think of it as that I'm looking at someone through style and through their story. So the first thing is that did they kind of present themselves to the world in a way that was just kind of very unique or really individual? Was it saying something? And then the other part is their story. So is there something in their story that I want to embody and depict and share? So that's essentially what it is.
Sounds deep.
I think it has become, so I've internalized it so much that I
how do you interpret this? I've seen a couple of the pictures. These are a series of pictures or photo essays. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
Where you sort of style yourself.
Yeah.
Like famous women in history. Is that a good way to describe it?
Right. There could be contemporary women as well.
Okay.
So some of them are still alive.
And who are these? Tell us about some of the women that you've portrayed yourself as.
Sure, yeah. So it started with, because of the Mexico Connect.
Right.
It started with Frida Kahlo.
Okay. So you style yourself like Frida Kahlo.
So I
think I saw that
I
picture.
did and I didn't, Sendil. So basically, while thinking of this, I was just thinking about her one day. And I thought I would like to do a tribute to her. But I want to do something that's about me as well as her. So it's like our tribute, to her. And I styled myself in a Kanjivaram sari.
Right.
As opposed to like typical Mexican clothes.
Oh, so you style yourself as someone famous, but by adding an element that is unique and new.
Yeah, so something
that's more close to you.
Yeah, and it's a creative departure. I'm not recreating her for a film where she has to look exactly like Frida looked.
Right.
I think it's that's what I'm saying. It's about the both of us, and then there's the story that I want to tell about each of these women. So Frida Kahlo was one. Yayoi Kusama, the Japanese artist, the Japanese sort of.
I'm not familiar.
Super amazing woman, and then so with each of these women, I kind of really get into their lives. And I sometimes get really involved to the point of getting obsessed.
Okay.
My current obsession is with ancient Egypt because I'm thinking of who from ancient Egypt I can depict next.
Cleopatra, who else?
So because it's so who else, I wanted not to Cleopatra, but there were some others. So there were some other very crazy pharaohs who did like power grabs 3,500 years ago.
Right.
They dressed up as men because they had to convince their country that they were fit enough, good enough to rule.
Oh, so there were women queens.
Female pharaohs.
Female pharaohs. Oh, they were. Wow.
So there was no male pharaoh. She was the pharaoh.
Okay.
So she was the female
Actually,
king.
you're right. Apart from Cleopatra, I don't think any of us are familiar with any female heads of state as far as ancient Egypt.
So I wasn't either, till just a couple of months ago. Nefertiti, of course.
Yeah.
But
Nefertiti was a woman?
Yeah.
Okay. now I know.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So it means in ancient Egyptian, the beautiful one has arrived.
Okay.
So, and she really was. So if
Okay.
you've seen that bust, which is in the Berlin Museum,
I will
yeah,
Google it.
it's iconic. So
See,
anyway.
one of the things that I'm also trying to overcome through this podcast is my ignorance.
Can I have some more wine?
Please. I thought you
Is
would
your
ask.
ignorance?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the best way to learn, otherwise, there's no real incentive to, to understand.
Thank you.
Learn new things. But yes, now I have to Google Nefertiti.
I'll send you all these things. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's what it is, Senthil. I kind of internalize each of these women. These people. I read their biopics or watch their documentaries or watch read their biographies, and sometimes I just stare at, like, if she was, say, in the ancient world, right? I will just stare at her funerary death mask and think, like, how did she make her next political move or whatever it was?
Right.
Like, what were the highs and the lows of her life, you know?
And then what would you do? You try to capture that in the image, or how do you approach?
So there are a few ways in which I approach it, right? I think it's too easy to just kind of go out and buy a costume or rent a costume that kind of is like a Chinese empress or whatever, So I recreate that, and sometimes in order to recreate that, I like to do it with found objects, just simple things around the house or simple things I can buy at my like the kiddie stationery store.
Right.
And then after my son goes to sleep at about 9:30, 10, I sit and then I kind of start crafting these things. And then I like to have a little fun with that. And that's where the creative departures, like I was saying, start to happen.
Right.
And so, for instance, I did one of Noor Jahan, which I will...
I think I've seen it. I've seen 2 or 3 of what you... I think Frida Kahlo was definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I think Noor Jahan was the other.
Yeah. So Noor Jahan has an incredibly interesting story. I mean, she was just like the overachiever of the 17th century. Sort of like calling the shots of the richest empire on the planet at the time, almost single-handedly, because Jahangir at that time he spent a lot of time being drunk, or he was on opium, and he also trusted his wife a lot. So he had 3 reasons to leave it.
Now that you mention it, like, a part of me was wondering, why would you do this? But I think it's interesting because even as you're telling me about Noor Jahan, I realized that if not for this endeavor, I would never have wanted to know anything about Noor Jahan in the first place, right? Is that what inspired you to start doing this? Because they see the picture and say, who's this and who's she representing? And then they discover the person. And was that the
So
idea?
I do get that a lot. I think that's just been a byproduct. I didn't think of it that way, but I do get this a lot from friends and, whoever kind of looks at these pictures, saying that I didn't know anything about this person, or I didn't know that this woman had so much, like mental health issues to deal with, or I didn't know that someone was up against so much, or whatever it is, So I think that all of these are stories that come out. So they're stories of struggle, or they're stories of just grit, or they're stories of just uniqueness, it's just stories of powerful auras, amazing women.
So what was the inspiration for you to start doing this? Like, why did you want to think of doing this?
So that's a great question, actually. And I've asked myself a lot this question, because I ask myself, am I just dressing up as somebody, or is it more than that, And I think it's the picture and the story coming together that kind of is giving me these answers. And honestly, Sendil, I'm not doing it to create a perfect product. I'm doing it to sort of meander through this and explore it and enjoy it and share it.
Do you sometimes wonder if you just, what am I doing? Like, do you ever think? Because sometimes I do that. I mean, I have ideas and I do stuff. I mean, this is actually some of the more sane endeavor.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do things that I ask myself, why am I doing this?
So the idea, like I said, is to just continue to meander. It's, I think I'm about maybe 12, 15 women. I think that's what it's been.
And what do you get out of it?
So I think that it's, I think the storyteller in me, or the sort of like the story collector in me, feels very satisfied and fulfilled. And I think that's one. The other is that I am also a stylist. So other than being a designer, I'm an art director and stylist. And I really love to style, So I think the stylist in me feels really good with this project, So it's really like something to
and you're
chew
styling
on.
yourself, so there's no one telling you what to do, what not to do. You can do
Yeah, I
whatever
mean,
the heck
I'm
you
the
want.
only person that I can style and sort of, sort of, sometimes it's really ridiculous. And, sometimes I'm putting myself out there in a way that
Yeah.
I'm not entirely comfortable with sometimes, but I feel that, okay, it is my project and it's my art in a sense. And I should have the guts to do that.
It takes a lot of resolve to be able to, even in this era where everyone's putting out pictures on Instagram and all of that, I think
Sure.
It still takes a lot of
Yeah.
resolve to put at least something that you think is meaningful, right?
Yeah,
There's a story
so
attached.
it's not about creating a pretty picture. If it was that, I think that would be a different thing.
Right.
Sometimes it's about being quite ridiculous but sort of being true to this person. And I think it takes me some amount of guts to be able to sort of put myself
Style
out
yourself
there.
and pose and,
and
shoot yourself
absolutely,
and then put it out there with the story attached.
With
right?
the story attached, and
Right.
and so like I was saying, I do these creative departures. Like for instance, I did a Persian princess who was around in the mid 19th century when photography was just invented and
Okay.
brought to Iran by the Shah of Persia, right? And I did a reenactment of her, and so she had a mustache, right? That was part of
Wow.
that was considered beautiful.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then I embodied that, and then I kind of put on the semi hijab, but they would wear these tutus,
Okay.
instead of like a floor grazing hijab, they would wear a tutu. Why? Because
A tutu
and-
is
a tutu is a ballet skirt.
okay.
Okay. And why? Because at that time, Persia was extremely inspired by Russia and by Russian culture,
okay.
so that's where it came in from.
Iran actually
So
has
where
an
that-
interesting and very diverse history. I mean,
They are
it's not the
surprisingly
country they
progressive,
are.
actually.
Unfortunately, they're not today. But I think for most of history, they were for the longest time. Persia was a very
I think for while the Shahs were around,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
and it wasn't.
yeah.
But I think that when after 1979, it's a whole
yeah.
different story.
But till the 1970s, even Afghanistan. I don't know about Iran, but Afghanistan was
Yeah.
for decades, for centuries,
Very
an
progressive.
extremely progressive country where
So
women
I'm
had a
gonna-
lot of rights, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
More
And-
than probably what Indians had in that
at that time
era.
very
right?
different. In fact, I think the way that they were building Kabul up and everything was completely different from what we see today. So there is an Afghan queen that I want to portray and
Wow, okay.
reenact. She was around in the 20s, and that was an era that was a pretty progressive time for Afghanistan. So I think there's a story there to tell.
How did your husband react when he said, "You know what? I feel like doing this"? What did he say?
So he actually shot the pictures of Frida Kahlo for me
Okay.
because it
Was
wasn't
that your first?
Yeah, that was my first, and
Okay.
it wasn't a
Okay.
project then, right? So I
Right,
didn't
right.
have someone to come and take pictures like a
So how did
photographer.
this idea occur to you that I'm going to do this?
So I was thinking about. You mean for the first time, right?
For the first time when you said, "You know what? I'm going to do this thing, this
So
project."
it was a
or-
daydream, and I
Okay.
just thought it would be nice to kind of mix that,
Okay.
to sort of make Frida, but also kind of express
So
myself
you had this
through
image
her.
in your head of portraying Frida, but doing it in a way that's unique. Just
Yeah, I don't know about unique, but just doing it in a way that I kind of dreamt up.
Okay,
You
okay,
know, and maybe
okay.
that is unique.
Right.
And I went ahead and did it. I think that was that very crucial moment.
Right.
Because
we
I
all
could have-
think things, we don't always do them film line.
But I think silly is nice, right? Like I'm sure you know
For
this.
me, it's okay because it's my part of my work and it's part of what I do, right? And it's part of my personality and demeanor.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in between there was a professional photographer,
Okay.
who kind of came in and took a few of the pictures, but
Nice.
he's not based here; he's based
Right.
in Gurgaon.
Okay.
So and now it's back to my husband. There
Right.
are some other women who are professional photographers who've stepped in and said they really want to be a
Nice.
part of the project.
Yeah. I can see this honestly expanding into an interesting project involving more women. Because
I would love that. Like
Yeah.
if there's anyone watching this podcast, a woman photographer who
One
wants
of
to
the
come
15 or
in,
20, huh?
15 or 20, one woman photographer who wants to come in and do this with us.
I'm sure there
you
has
know?
to be, because there are. Today, for various reasons, there is a search for interesting feminine subjects. Because it is there is a sort of I don't think women's empowerment in India has ever had a bigger voice than it has today, right? And that always art always helps push that agenda of any progressive movement, right?
Sure.
And it's interesting because my mind is still wondering why I stopped you from talking about Noor Jahan. You were saying something interesting about her. But why the heck would I think of Noor Jahan if not for that thing that you created that we're talking about, right? So these things do start conversations about people and things that you wouldn't otherwise think or talk about.
Sure. I think I think it is partly that the fact that it kind of does lead to very interesting conversations. It leads to some amount of thinking also, about this person and about has so much also changed, because some narratives that were around, say, 3,000 years ago are still, you'd be surprised how little some things have changed when it comes to women,
Right. Right.
So I think there's that. There are so many layers of stories and narratives and just these interesting sort of truths about people's lives, which are worth kind of bringing out.
Which to you, of all the stories and the portrayals you've done of these iconic women, which do you think is the most interesting? I'm sure they're all interesting, and I'm sure
You
it's
mean
hard to pick.
visually, or
Any which way,
or
as a story,
everything?
as like Noor Jahan's story. I'm assuming. I think I know. So Noor Jahan was Shah Jahan's mother, right?
She was not his mother. She was his stepmother.
A stepmother.
Yeah,
right.
and she actually did a lot of politics to ensure that he didn't ascend the Mughal throne.
Okay.
But her son-in-law did.
Why did you pick Noor
Well,
Jahan?
I picked Noor Jahan because I mean you can't even fathom that level of power.
Okay.
Today, where so imagine that she was pretty much calling the shots
Of that empire.
of the single richest empire on the planet at the time.
At the time,
A woman
right.
in
Yeah,
the
a woman.
17th century
Wow.
who started out as a refugee in Persia, and they sort of made their way to the Mughal court.
Wow.
Semi like on donkeys or in a caravan, and she was born on the way, and
Wow.
so she kind of arrived there. She became part of the harem at some point, and she was a very talented seamstress. And so she would make these beautiful clothes for the Mughal ladies, the
Right.
fancy Mughal ladies, and she kind of gained a reputation as being this beautiful embroiderer and a seamstress, and so that's how she started out.
That's an amazing web show right there. That's a web series right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
What an
no,
interesting
there's
story.
so many stories.
Wow.
She was an amazing woman,
And she must have been very intelligent and very cunning.
Yeah,
to
can you
have done what she did.
imagine? I mean, it's unfathomable, right?
Yeah.
And she's also, by the way, the person who gave the world chicken curry. So the Lucknowi art.
Okay.
So she brought artisans from Persia.
Wait, you're talking about the fabric, right?
Yes, the fabric
Not
and the embroidery. No, not chicken
Not
curry,
not
but
curry,
chicken
okay, yeah.
curry.
Right. Yeah, chicken curry.
Sorry,
Chicken
curry.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, wow, Noor Jahan invented chicken
But
curry.
maybe some kind of chicken curry as well. Like I don't know about this.
But the chicken curry, because I remember a long time ago when one of our neighbors was from UP, and she was selling these things, Hey, I've just come back from Lucknow if you guys want and all that. She said, it's called chicken curry works. Yeah, chicken curry, wow. I always find these fascinating, these stories of how a person from really a humble background comes up
she
and
wasn't
captures
really, she was
power.
nobility, but they fell upon hard times for various reasons, and then whatever.
But then to climb up and capture that kind of power.
Yeah, she did.
Such an interesting story, because I
She
think,
did.
is there a way I can learn and capture power and,
Yeah.
become a very powerful kind of guy that can just, get shit done?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always...
Maybe you can. Like, you just have to meet a
But
Mughal
I
emperor
realized-
and
No, but I think from all the stories I've read, if you really want power, if you genuinely seek it, no matter who you are, no matter what your background is, that's what you want, anybody can do it. But what you can't, most of us can't do, and that's why most of us do not achieve tremendous power, is the things you have to do, the compromises you have to make, the sacrifices which are mostly in the realm of morality.
I don't think it's for everybody.
You don't have the stomach for it. Like,
No.
I've thought about it long and hard.
Yeah.
There were folks in my life where I said, should I become a don, or should I just become a regular guy, eating a living and live a honest, moral, sort of a life?
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for just being a regular, anonymous, forgettable human being.
100%. For the longest time in my life, like almost everybody else, I wanted to be rich and famous, right? I still want to be rich, but the famous bit I would love to avoid as much as possible.
What if Bangalored does that for you? Are you prepared? Are you ready for this?
I think I'll just give it up to Bhavesh or something. Like,
oh yeah? Like magnanimously and publicly.
I'm joking. I don't think a podcast will really make you that famous. I don't think... but I'm talking about intense fame.
But you're talking about like super... You're not saying like entry-level fame.
No, I'm talking about like the higher echelons of fame. Like
right.
Superstardom and all of that.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
You know,
like Shetty.
Like Rohit Shetty.
Rohit Shetty,
yeah. Let's not even go to Shah Rukh Khan. Even Rohit Shetty, for example. Right? You cannot go out of... You can't go to a shop or sit in a coffee shop without people coming and say, sir, you'll not believe this. I'm a nobody, okay? And yet, there are a couple of actors that apparently I resemble, okay? And because I am in the shooting field, right? I'm telling you, one of the people that apparently I resemble is this big Kannada actor named Sudeep Kicha. Okay. I was in Ramoji Film City shooting an ad.
But Sudeep is the one with little long hair, no? He
has longish hair.
He's around now.
He's an existing actor. He's a senior guy and he's a big... actually, he's one of the few actors who've done work in Bollywood also.
Hey, you know what? Like now that you say it, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I was in Ramoji.
I mean, I wouldn't look at you and say that, this is him, but I know what you mean.
So I was in Ramoji Film City, where I've shot. I love Ramoji Film City. It's a crazy place. It's a fabulous, mad place to shoot in. Okay, in Hyderabad, outside Hyderabad, right? It's a crazy place. All of Bhojpuri cinema, most of it gets made.
Oh,
it's
I didn't know that.
It's crazy place. A big place with random weird locations. Okay? So I was shooting there as I was. And usually it's a place where filmmakers and actors come. So all the security people, drivers always like, put salam and hi, open doors for you and all of that. But this particular trip, the reception was amazing. Everywhere I have people like, drivers standing up, hello sir, and all that. And hi, and all that. No, guys were opening doors for me more enthusiastically. People are smiling more.
Did they ask for your autograph?
No, thankfully they didn't. I think because it's always
so they must have been wondering, like, is it or is it not?
It was a distance. I realized. I was also wondering why. Maybe I've become famous and I just don't know it. Wow, am I that humble? And then it came to know that Sudeep was shooting a film in Ramoji at the time. The 2-3 days
so they actually thought you were him.
They thought it was me walking around. It's only at a distance, and I was wearing shades, And that was an amazing experience. So I tried my best to not reveal that I'm not Sudeep because I'm enjoying it. Because I never got such enthusiastic waves from across the street. I was also playing my part very cheap. I was like, like doing the whole actor wave. I really enjoyed those 2-3 days of unwarranted fame. But that's about it. If I had
so that's the closest you've gotten so far.
Closest I've gotten so far.
But you tasted it, like it. I hope it didn't go to your head.
I'm sure if it had lasted
longer,
it may have. Yeah. But like I said, that's as much as I could handle. 3 days of people waving at you and smiling at you.
It was 3 whole days. Yeah,
3 whole days. I was walking all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So we were moving around and all of that.
So you didn't get a swollen head and
no. Yeah. But imagine that continued.
Yeah.
For a week, for a month.
Yeah, for life.
Let's even say for a year. It will get you ahead.
Yeah.
No matter what you do.
Yeah.
It will get you ahead.
I'm sure.
In a good way. I mean, no, there's no good way. It'll either make you arrogant or it'll drive you mad. That you cannot go anywhere and just be by yourself. You cannot go get a cup of coffee without knowing people are staring at you. Right? Sometimes I wonder about these stars.
But there's a lot of people that do it and they seem functional.
They all go mad. They're all mad.
I'm sure there's a way to... Maybe they have very good therapists, so I don't know what.
Of all the famous people in the world.
Maybe they just... I don't know. I think if I were like this, I think what I would do is I would become intensely private on the inside. So whatever you're doing is you're projecting a persona that somebody else consumes and buys, but that's not you.
But what happens is the human mind is a delicate thing. The more and more the persona you project, the longer you do it, a part of you starts wondering which part of you is the persona and which part of that is you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's human nature. You cannot fight.
They are interconnected.
They are. You cannot. After a point, your mind wanders because you are what you believe, right? You are what you think.
Yeah.
What you imagine, you create.
Right.
Like your pictures or like anything else, right? Whatever your mind believes, eventually becomes reality.
Right.
In a good way, but sometimes in cases of fame, it's a bad thing. That's why most celebrities are mad.
I'm sure it is confusing.
Which is why very people are famous and sane, and they put a lot of work into ensuring that fame doesn't get in, but very few people achieve it. Very few people achieve it. And the ones they achieve it are also the ones that run away from the spotlight as much as possible.
Yeah. So what are the challenges then?
What are the challenges? Nothing is charming anymore, right? For you and me sitting here and having a chat is something interesting.
Yeah.
Those guys have done this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Different people.
Like they just ignored.
Yeah. What they enjoy sometimes is perhaps a conversation like this where we're at least trying not to be fake. Just being ourselves.
Sure.
Right? That they might. Cause,
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah, because they are usually surrounded by people trying to say what they think these guys
They want to hear.
You know? So you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
This is just a hobby that you do. It's a passion project.
Yeah, it's a passion project. I am an entrepreneur as of, it's been about a year now. So I quit, various sort of corporate, roles that I was in. Because there was, we can talk about that. I think that because there was always something missing, in sort of not doing what I wanted to do. It did teach me a lot, and I think they were great roles, and there were some really good opportunities to do nice work. But yeah, as of a year, I started my own company, which is it's a gifting company, and we do niche gifting. But it's more than that because it's all handcrafted, and we sort of work with artisans and designers and craftspeople from across India, and we curate it, we tell their stories, we tell the stories of the products, and we bring this together, and
nice.
we do these handcrafted gifts, and most of our clients are corporates, MNCs, small to medium businesses.
You give these people access to these kind of gifting as opposed to just thermos or
exactly
a mug
or a cap, with the logo printed, or a T-shirt, so
or a clock,
what is called corporate gifting.
Corporate gifting. Okay. So you're trying to make that more interesting.
Yeah, I think that there is, and it is a need. I think it's just a need that maybe people haven't realized that is there. It's
because I
unarticulated.
suppose all corporates have to give their employees with some. Once or twice a year, right?
So, employees, clients, associates. There's so many occasions.
Right.
And I just think that this is a nice way to kind of bring different parts of India together. There's a lot of storytelling and narrative that kind of goes into our boxes.
Nice.
But the other side of this, Sendil, is because what we're doing is quite new. It's not what every corporate gifter does, right? There's a lot of convincing that goes into this. So sometimes we are having to convince our clients. Not convince them, but sort of talk them through why it's okay to pay a premium for something like this, And the ones that love it really love it.
Right.
But I think it's that one experience, and then they buy into that world.
A discerning client to say.
A discerning client,
to say that this is the kind of stuff that because not everybody appreciates paying more for something that genuinely has more value, because the value is in your perception, right? And you have to perceive it as something of value to be able to understand what it's really worth,
right? And the perceived value of something always has to be much higher than what you paid for it. So there are all these challenges that we are up against, but I think when we enter a conversation, that is my partner Neha and I, we say that, look, we are not going to be your lowest bidder.
Right.
We don't make things in China. We don't give T-shirts with stuff printed. We can do that for a client, but that's not what we specialize in. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that conversation that happens. But once people see it and understand it and sort of feel it, I think that is a conversion very often on its own. And then there are some people who just don't get it, and they just don't see why they should pay that extra money. We're okay to lose those clients because we're not okay to lose the business, and it always pinches us a bit, but we are okay to lose the clients.
Right. Okay. Because you cannot. Some people, some things you have to see the value or you don't. You cannot you can't talk someone into understanding the value of something if they haven't got it after a point. But the difference in the conversations we have at the level of, say, HR or the CXOs that talk to us,
versus the when it comes down to procurement.
Of course.
And by the time it's come down to procurement, it's just about the numbers and how
Correct,
much you can cut.
correct.
And we're okay to do that too. But if you don't get the bigger picture and you don't get the story, then you're not
I
going
think
to get
that's part of the reason that happens with procurement is that's exactly what those people are paid to do.
I know.
They're
I'm
paid-
not blaming procurement.
No, I'm not blaming.
It's a hard job.
irritating.
I would hate to be procurement.
Yeah, absolutely, and you know that's how it's planned. They
Yeah.
make sure that the people above don't have to ask the more
The dirty questions.
questions.
Yeah, and do all the dirty work.
And so you always have people in procurement who just say the most insensitive things in the
Yeah.
most blunt manner.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
And it's always about the money and it's the brass tacks, there's no point telling our story to procurement or,
I shot Bangalore airport when it first, when it first came up. Was developed this agency called Meridian. They were the client for BIAL, Bangalore International Airport Limited. So they wanted to do a corporate film for the airport that was just being built. In fact, just started.
Are you the only person in your business or do you have a partner?
No, I have no. I run my own thing because I do whatever the heck I want whenever I want to. So I have people working with
Yeah.
me.
Okay.
I call the shots.
Yeah.
'Cause, I have a unique way of seeing situations and reading things, and it's very difficult to expect somebody else to
Yeah.
sometimes understand what. That's also
Okay.
why I produce my own stuff.
Okay.
I'm a director
Okay.
and producer.
Right.
That way, I get to decide how much money I want to save, or
It
how
works
much
for
money
you.
I want to spend,
Yeah.
or if I want to make no profit, it's my call.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. So in my case, I would say it's the opposite. I think it's because I have a partner and we have very opposite skill sets. But at the end of the day, we want what's best, of course, for our company, which is called Adira Thoughtful Gifting. I think that's what kind of makes things
need a good
work
dynamic.
really nicely.
It works if
Yeah.
two or three partners or individuals coming together, if they have a really good understanding
Yeah.
and a genuinely shared vision,
Yeah.
it can work.
A shared vision, but I think different skill sets. I
Right,
think that
right.
helps
I
a
think
lot.
you probably
So-
have complementary skill sets, right? Probably she does things that you can't, and you do the things that
Yeah,
she can't.
absolutely. That's
And
what it
one
is. So,
and
yeah.
I think you also have to have mutual respect for what
Yeah.
the other person does.
Yeah, which we do because that's what keeps it running. That's
Yeah.
what keeps us viable, and sort of it just makes the business come in.
So what's
And
been your
so-
experience the last 1 year? What a time to start a business.
Yeah, so I think we started it because we were both in different ways quite frustrated with where life had kind of landed us and dumped us, So we would talk about it and we would say, we should do something together. She would pick me up when there was the first wave, the lockdown, and we
okay.
would just drive down Sarjapur Road
Okay.
and we would think like we should do something of our own and maybe
Right,
that'll help
right.
us kind of break out of this instead of just like bitching about our lives. I think it's better to just be constructive instead,
Right. Take action. As
Take
opposed to
action,
reacting
yeah.
to the circumstance you find
Yeah,
yourself
exactly.
in.
But then just reacting because that is already cathartic for you. So then you
Right.
never take that next step.
Right.
And I think at some level we pushed ourselves to
Right,
do it,
right.
And then this was an idea that I had, and I kind of thought about this as a gift that's an elevated gift. It's so much more than that, So it's an experience.
It's a
and
curated gift.
It's a curated gift.
Right.
It's an experience. It kind of brings different parts of India together in a
Right,
way that's
right. There are
that's.
artisans involved.
There are artisans involved. There's
It's
plus
like a more evolved aesthetic, basically.
it's an evolved aesthetic, and because it was in my dream, I could make it whatever I wanted.
That's the best part about
And then I tried to sort of stay as true to it as possible, while then later translating it into
Right.
actual products and boxes and
Right.
story cards and website copy or whatever it was. So that's what it was. And then Neha, who's very very good with the ops and the business, and so she's so those are the
Every
bits that
creative person
needs somebody like this, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Need a
So
good partner
yeah.
to handle the business side of things.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
creative people usually are, and rightfully so, bad at.
Yeah, I'm so bad. Like the business, I think was shut down if it was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
me. Like I think,
I think the creative mind, it's not like it cannot do the business side of things, but it does take away.
I know some people who are great at both, Sendil, and
but
I mean,
very
hats
rare,
off to
very
them. It's
difficult,
very rare.
Very
Yeah.
difficult. It's
Yeah.
a tough ask. Not
Yeah.
all of us. It's something that I've been training myself to be better at, and of course, today I'm better than I was 10 years ago.
Sure.
But you have to ask yourself, what do I really want to be? Do I want to be the businessman in me or the creative guy in me?
Yeah.
And it's a tough choice, but I always choose the creative guy who's. I'm hoping it'll pay off in the long run. I hope I won't die like Guru Dutt, broke it, and depressed. But that's the risk you take being an artist of any line of work, whether it's gifting or
I think
filmmaking.
that has changed a lot. I mean, I don't know. I don't
I
know
know
what it was like for Guru Dutt.
I know a lot of artistic
but-
people, even in Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
They don't know how to make money.
They don't
There
know.
are so many people who don't know how to make money because we are not taught how to make money. We're taught subjects. We're taught, language. We're taught.
Sure. I mean, unless we picked it up in our upbringing or,
Unless you're from a family,
from
where
a business
your uncle,
family,
your dad,
yeah.
or your
Yeah.
relative, or somebody has business. Even then, it's very hard to pick up these skills.
Yeah.
Your dad, maybe you stick around with him for 10 years, and maybe you can pick it up, right?
Yeah.
But these are things that you pick up only when someone explains it to you, and then
Yeah.
you think about it.
No, I think it is tough. And in my case, I think just being in corporate roles and, sort of like large businesses and companies help me a lot because it helps you to see that
Right.
design is
Right.
is a part of it. It's a really
Right.
important part of it, but
Right.
it's got to work with business.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
there's so much sort of push and pull going on.
Absolutely.
It's not
Yeah.
just you in your own little bubble sort of creating what you want to create.
In fact, one of the reasons I left the agency life, I was doing pretty well in advertising agencies. I was working there as a writer, and I did fairly well for myself. But I felt that there was a lot more to learn in the world outside of a corporate organization because you don't have. You can't just do that one role that you do in an organization, right? You got to do everything. You got to understand all aspects of whatever the heck you
Yeah,
are
oh my
doing.
God, yes, of
That's
course.
a great learning. And over time, even if you're bad at it, you really want to get better. You can get better at it. And
No, so I think when you start your own thing, right, it's suddenly, so earlier you were just, say, a creative director, right?
Right.
Now, overnight, you are HR, you're the
Your procurement.
CEO, your procurement, you are the office boy,
Right.
you are the
you're answering calls and
you're-
replying to messages.
you're the sales and marketing person.
Yeah.
You're your own,
Yeah.
I mean, you're everything, right?
And it's a great
uh,
trip. It's a good trip. It's a good trip. If you will allow it to be, it's a good trip, and you can learn so much. It's fun. And how has your journey been?
So I think it's actually been really encouraging, Sendil, because when we started, things were really, really down,
I can imagine.
Yeah, and so at a time, I think we started from rock bottom. So maybe we thought, okay, it can't get any worse.
Right.
So that was the good part,
Right, right.
But I think it's come together.
Nice.
Touch wood, but I think it is coming together,
Nice,
and
nice.
so that's great.
Right.
I think of course there have been ups and downs, but what really feels like a huge win every time is when somebody sees your product and experiences it and says, yeah, we get it, like this is why we want you guys,
Right.
To sort of do this curation for us and do the storytelling for us.
Right.
And then it just feels like, yeah, maybe we're doing something that is relevant.
And it's also, I'm assuming, a very competitive space, right? Because I think there are a lot of people
Who do corporate gifting?
Corporate-
Yeah, a lot. There aren't a lot of people who do this, fortunately,
Okay.
as of now.
Right.
So maybe we also need
So
to
that
move
was your
fast.
inspiration, that you wanted to create a niche within the corporate
Absolutely,
gifting space.
yeah.
Right.
And so that has also come with that extra effort of having to sort of convey to people what we do and why it's different, why it's more expensive,
Right.
or whatever it is, So
Right.
that bit has also kind of landed on us to do, but it's fun. I mean, I love talking about the story behind Adira and behind why we do what we do, because there are these stories, So
Wow.
it's, yeah.
So and where do you plan to take it from here? As in, do you have any vision? Are you just taking it one day at a time, or is there any plans?
So there's both. I think there is a vision, and we also do one day at a time. So it's both things that coexist. I think that where I would really want to take this is, of course, scale it in terms of the clients and all of that. But I think also I really want our own little stores,
Okay.
where you say when you're walking towards the boarding gates in Bangalore or Delhi airport.
Nice.
You can walk across this beautiful little frontage and store where you
Right.
walk in, you see these visuals of
Right.
the different products that you can have and the different
Right.
stories that we tell, and have someone really friendly there to put it together for you, write your message, type it out, or maybe do a beautiful hand-done calligraphy.
Not just a store with nice things, but a gifting store. Where
a gifting store where you, as you're sort of going about your day, you can get something for somebody because you didn't have time to do it before, or you didn't think about it, or whatever.
But how different would that be from a Chumbak or a Fab India? The store that you're describing, or would it be similar to that?
So I think that Chumbak and Fab India have different. They just have a different soul, So Chumbak is different from Fab India, is different from Adira.
Okay. But it's similar in a sense. Would it be similar?
So I think that maybe Fab India would be much closer.
Okay.
At least the Fab India that we used to know.
Right. Before it became such a big franchise, right? I mean.
Yeah, and I think in order to scale to what they have done, I think that's sort of diluted a few of the things that they do. It's still a fantastic brand, but anyway, that's a conversation for a different day.
Of course.
But I think that Fab India isn't ultimately a gifting company. It is something that you go and you buy for your home. You might gift it,
Absolutely.
but here
So here the concept is all about gifting,
and you could gift it to yourself.
Okay.
And there could be home decor, so there could be things that you'll find in a Fab India or
Right.
something else. But this is ultimately about carrying a story to somebody else. So you're giving them something that's more than a gift box,
It's not just something. It's not something you picked up randomly. Because sometimes you wonder, like, how do I? If I wanted to give somebody a gift, you want it to be meaningful, right? But it's hard. Like, if I had to think of a meaningful gift to give someone, I don't even know what to think about, right? Unless I really knew them and there's some particular thing that I know he or she wants.
Right.
It's hard to get a meaningful gift other than perfume. Right?
Sure.
Sure.
So I think that if you were approaching Adira with a very specific request in mind, like say tech or a perfume, or we might not be able to do that for you.
Right.
But I think that if you want something that's beautiful and utilitarian and meaningful and a few other things for somebody that's going to appreciate it, I think we would be a good person to come to. I don't mean to pitch myself to you, but yeah.
Nice. And the 8 years that you've been you've been in Bangalore for 8 years. How's that journey been? If just to digress from a more corporate conversation. By the way, do you have time? You have time, right?
I'm okay. Yeah, what's the time?
Okay, you're okay, right? Whenever you whenever you think it's too much.
You just
no
go
pressure.
with the flow.
No pressure. I'm just saying. In case you're like, God, when's he going to stop? I'm just saying.
No, it's cool, Sendil. Thank you.
How's the personal side of life evolved in this city? Like for me, the person the Sendil that arrived in Bangalore and the person I am today, very different. And I think, of course, the city has had a huge role in defining who I am today and helping me on this journey. How's it affected or impacted your life?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll answer that in different parts, different buckets. So one is that it's been amazing to raise my kid here. I think the outdoors that Bangalore has within the city, the lakes, the parks, the places to just go and walk. And also just out of Bangalore, so an hour, 2, 3, there are amazing places to go to, So I think the outdoors, the weather, the amazing monumental trees in, say, a Cubbon Park and, different parts of the city have been such a blessing, I think that's one thing. So raising my kid here has been great.
How old is he?
He's 8.5 now. Yeah, almost 9. I think also here is where I kind of started my corporate journey and corporate roles, and I think that has taught me an immense amount, of various things. And then, of course, on a personal front, it just is nice to be in a city that is so accessible. It's easygoing.
That it is.
Yeah, you're not constantly stressed out by the weather or who you're going to get as the taxi guy or the auto guy, and you're not constantly.
But just kind of also, I think it's also a matter of perspective, because there are many people. It's interesting the things you just pointed out. There are many people who have the exact same problems with the city. There are I think many people who feel the biggest stress is the autos and taxis. You know what I'm saying? The fact that they get refused or they don't get enough.
Sure. No, I will say like that, especially when it's raining. Why does Bangalore shut down?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It shuts down.
But yeah, like no auto wala will come.
I keep cracking jokes. The traffic police in Bangalore are like cats. As in it rains, you won't see.
You see them.
You won't see cops in the street.
Yeah. So there are a few unsolved mysteries about Bangalore for sure.
I will name one unsolved mystery of Bangalore, which Garuda Mall. You've been to Garuda Mall?
Yeah, of course.
For some reason, you
The
drive on the
parking.
right side. No, you drive on the right side.
Yeah, I know. Just that one road, right? Like half a road.
And there's not even a board that says drive on the right side.
No.
When I first came to Bangalore, I'm telling you, I turned on that road and I'm seeing bikes and cars coming towards me. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And then I thankfully cut. And I don't understand why. I'm
No,
sure
I
there was a
think
reason
you're
why
right.
was
It is
made.
an unsolved mystery. I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah, I don't
because
think
we've had this conversation with people. We've wondered. You know, other people have raised
people
it.
you're wondering with will also wonder.
They're also wondering.
they're
Everybody's
also
wondering. That's it.
Other unsolved mystery is the flyover that goes to Double Road from MG Road, where suddenly again on the flyover.
Does it stop midway?
It crisscrosses, and there's a signal also on a flyover, and it crisscrosses.
Okay.
You're driving on the.
I must have been on this one, but I can't remember now.
Yeah, so Bangalore that way have these structural marvels that no one knows why. I'm sure there was a reason at that time when they did this, but it has a lot.
But that's amazing, right? Like the fact that there are these unsolved mysteries and there are these things that we can't sort of,
and the best part is, Bangalore is like, yeah, dude, chill. It's okay. I love that about. I love. Initially, it irritated me that how can you be so casual? But I realized that's what makes the city.
Yeah.
It's casual, dude.
Yeah.
Don't get stressed. Just chill out. Okay,
well, I mean, you could also have an accident and die because of the way the road is.
Yeah, but the beauty is that doesn't happen so much. People just, I'm surprised that I don't know how it doesn't happen every day. I'm sure that I'm sure of the 1 million people, let's say 1 lakh.
No, but
people,
that way you can die on any road in Bangalore, right? Like,
let's say the 1 lakh people going on that road every day. At least 1 lakh minimum have to be going on that road. Won't one idiot like me come from some other city and take that right not knowing?
Yeah.
Right? So technically there should be one guy having, at least one person having an accident on that turn every day, but it doesn't happen. I don't know.
No, it doesn't happen.
I mean, good. I'm happy it doesn't happen.
Yeah, true. Well, good.
But
There, what is it with the one ways in Bangalore? I am not too sure about this.
That
Like,
is
there are a lot of one ways, and sometimes it'll throw you off by 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes.
If you miss a turn, that's because a friend of mine who was admin guy in one of the offices that I worked in mentioned that apparently Bangalore roads, the roads that have been built, and now of course they're expanding tremendously everywhere, but the city especially is built. I hope you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm fine.
It's built. You can push your chair out or something if you're. Yeah. Sorry. It's built to handle about 25-26 lakh vehicles every day. That's what it's built to handle. But the actual number of vehicles pre-COVID, of course, that ply on Bangalore roads is closer to maybe 80 lakh vehicles that ply.
That's it? I would have thought it would be more, but
including, I'm saying this is what they officially know to an extent, that come in and go out and exist. So the roads were just not capable of handling that kind of traffic that the city has had to face in recent years, and that's why one way is one of the ways that they make sure that there is some movement.
Yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, it's impossible.
Yeah, but it's just mysterious. Like you don't know when you're going to hit a one way, and then you don't know how the rest of your day is going to go because you might be so late for your next meeting, and then your next.
Yeah.
You
I
just
think
don't know.
this is where I think Chennai took the lead, because I remember Chennai was a very shit-looking city with bad roads when I was very young. But mid-90s, late 90s, I think the politicians realized, hey, let's make roads and make money. Let's build shit and
But they have
make
good
money.
roads. Like Chennai has good roads.
See, 100%, I'm sure even there.
So they made the money, but at least they made the roads before that. Like I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure they've all made money building bridges, the contractors, the MLAs, the politicians, the ruling party, whatever. But they built the roads, they built the flyover, and they keep updating the route. And the highways across Tamil Nadu, once I took a wrong turn, forget wrong turn and missing, I took a wrong turn into Salem instead of Chennai. Because they're building something on that stretch of road in Bangalore. And again, like I should have come back from Salem on the road, but I said I will take, I felt it was just too much for my ego to go back. So I said, no, I'll go forward and turn around. and I ended up traveling half of Tamil Nadu to get to Chennai. It was
How did your
ridiculous.
ego feel at the end of that?
Horrible. I felt like a moron for at least a week.
Yeah.
It took me a week to recover from that stupid expedition. But I was amazed by the number of good roads, not only in Chennai city, but in Tamil Nadu in general. I was amazed. The infrastructure
Yeah, it is
much
superb.
better.
Even from Sarjapur Road, when you cross over to Hosur,
Correct.
You already feel the difference.
I think it's because of
between
the,
Karnataka and Tamil Nadu.
I think it's because no one expected Bangalore to grow or explode the way it did in the mid
Explode is the word,
2005, 2006, the city just exploded.
Right.
The number of people just came in.
Yeah.
Number of cars, number of companies. I think just got caught, and now they're sort of trying to maybe. I think hopefully another 5-6 years we might be, because already it's better because with the metro coming in and some flyovers getting built. Things are better. Things are a little better. And now COVID also helped us. A lot of people have run away from Bangalore.
Yeah.
A lot of people have. And work from home has ensured that they don't have to come back to Bangalore.
True. No,
you
that
know?
is such a nice thing that's happening. No, really. I mean,
it
for the roads, for all of us,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
it's-
absolutely. So hopefully, they're just playing catch up, and hopefully they will catch up. But yeah, administration is not the city's strong point. That much I can tell you. I don't know who's running it, or I don't know who's messing up where, but
Yeah.
it's not the best managed or the best
True.
run city. But ironically, I just read a survey on Facebook today, but it's not a Facebook survey. It's some article that a friend of mine had. There's a group called Win Bangalore Back. They published a UNICEF report. Bangalore is the city with the best economic growth and opportunity in India.
I'm not surprised
Across 12
at that.
parameters,
Yeah,
they judged
yeah.
it. It's number one city across all of the cities and all even smaller towns. So I guess there are good
There are
reasons.
pluses.
There are pluses.
Yeah.
And what I enjoy about the city the most is the fact that you can actually sit and think or have a conversation on a weekday. Oh, sorry, it's a weekend, Saturday, right? Saturday
It could
night.
be a weekday.
It could be a weekday. Yeah. That's the beauty of this city. So those are the things I like about the city, and the fact that I called you and I don't know you. I didn't know you from before, and you didn't know me. We just had a common friend who thought that, hey, I know this person who might be interesting for your podcast. And I said, yeah. And then he told you, hey, I know this guy who has a podcast. It'd be interesting for you to go there. And he said, okay.
Yeah.
And you landed up, and here we are doing this. And I think that's also.
But I think that is nice about that is the nice thing about Bangalore is that before meeting people, and now that you've said it, I'm thinking about this now. I don't overthink meeting people.
absolutely.
In Delhi that did not happen.
In many cities, you
Yeah.
think twice. In
Yeah.
many cities,
Yeah.
not just Delhi, even in other cities, maybe even in Chennai, right, which is a little more conservative.
I mean, I have no experience of Chennai.
No, I'm
not
saying
that
because
much.
Chennai is a little more conservative. I don't know because I'm a guy, and it would have been a little awkward. You might have really had to have done some background checks.
But
Not easy.
unlike you, I did my research and I kind of looked up your podcast, so I knew that that it's okay for me to come and meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, but that comfort level of
Yeah.
asking me, just randomly asking a person, right? It's so much easier, and I see the responses.
Sure. I think it's
people are always open.
it's just easy
People are
going.
open.
I think
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are not second guessing themselves and each other all the time. Like,
And it doesn't always need a financial reward at the end of it. It's just okay to do it for the,
I never thought of
for
that.
the experience.
actually.
You know what? Let me just try. I think the people
For the wine.
I hope it is. Actually, I'm not minding it.
No,
pretty
it's
good.
very good.
Pretty
I
decent.
like it.
Decent as far as
Yeah.
wine goes. So, and I thought, how long has it been? What are you saying?
Oh, I didn't.
57, almost 2 hours.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I didn't
This is-
feel like
okay.
that.
The longest conversation I've had so far. So on
So
that, I will
it's
pour
the
you half a wine. Half
I
a
just
glass.
I want very little now.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you.
Are you in any way even mildly tipsy?
No,
You don't look
no,
it.
I'm
You don't
okay.
look it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank
You
you.
don't look it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm glad you chose wine because not everyone drinks alcohol. And it's more
So
fun
the
with
first woman, the first stranger, and the longest video.
The
right?
longest,
Like
yeah.
we have 3 records now.
I think hopefully they'll also be the most viewed. Maybe we'll touch 50 or 100. No. I know. What am I saying? Some of our podcasts have reached 150 people and all of that. So hopefully this will reach a double century or something. Let's see.
We'll see.
Even
That's
otherwise,
ambitious.
Even otherwise, it's been
Thank you so much, Sendil.
conversation, and it's been a
Same
been a
here.
truly
Thank you.
what can I say? It's been a good experience for me, and it's been a good conversation.
Likewise.
And thank you for your time,
Thank
thank
you.
you for doing this. Thank you, Bhavesh, for recording this, and thank you to whoever is watching. I don't know how many, but thank you for watching.